All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the June Southern Fried DNN user group meeting. We're very glad to see everybody online and to be here together again. We had to skip last month's meeting, and we were hating that we did that because we would have had a chance to talk to David Poindexter while he was out there at DNN Connect and participating in that. So today's our first meeting here in a couple of months, and we have a lot of good information to go over. As you can see on the roster here, we have two prominent community members that are going to stop in to talk about some new information and some training and information to get you started working with Persona Bar. So we have Bogdan from DNN Sharp ready to wow us with a new product release that considering the need to make multiple updates across lots of DNN instances, this DNN Admin Platform could really be something that a lot of people are going to be interested in, and it's very timely. This presentation. Scott did a Persona Bar development session at DNN Connect, and he's going to be bringing us some recap and portions of that to run through that with us. So thank you very much, Scott, for joining us tonight, too. And then just to kind of see my bullet point list here of the things we're going to run through, we'll also finish the meeting by thanking our sponsors and doing a bit of a giveaway. David, what do we have here at the end of tonight's session?
We've got a license for a JetBrains, any JetBrains product, 1-year license, absolutely free for any of those, as well as some shirts for the in-house guests here from Get Crackin'.
Get Crackin'.
Axosoft, Get Crackin'.
Mm-hmm. All right. So stay online. For everybody who's joined us online, we have tickets that have been set out, and Dustin is going through and pulling those for you and writing your names on them. So as long as you're staying to the end of the meeting, you'll be able to have a chance for those tickets. Just a few more moments of community and general information as we get started. And I think tonight's session is perfectly timed to have some conversation around the security update, security patch that was announced basically yesterday in the morning. Excuse me. The page I have on screen is from the DNN Core site, and it is the announcement for the critical security update. This is, to my recent memory, one of about 4 security-related updates that have been necessary in the DNN platform ever. It's not a frequent thing. To my own clients, it's a point of pride and reassurance to them that I explain that the focus of DNN is security focused, and that with relationships with the DoD and all types of related things, we are a community that don't suffer regular, urgent, breakneck, have to get it into the site security updates like other types of platforms. So when one of these comes along, you take notice. This was originally brought out to my attention from an Evoke customer where we do development work for them, and they received the email that went out from DNN Corp early in the morning to announce the information that was able to be shared at the time for this critical security update. Community focused myself, I immediately jumped on to our different Slack groups and the Facebook that David provided me just to see what people were saying about this particular security patch. And having gone through about 15 to 20 DNN instances here last night, I thought I would spend just a moment talking about it just a little bit to let you know what I've seen, because there are some concerns. Some of the folks, especially in Facebook conversations, have described that applying this patch instantly bricks their DNN instance. So before I mention anything else about this security patch, a reminder, a 101, Grant's come in. Hi, Grant. A 101 level reminder, always back up everything before you apply a new module, a new anything that you install into a DNN instance. And that certainly goes double or triple for something like this that is a security patch. So the the patch is installed. You download it here from this location. It's installed as a module. So what you're going to be downloading is a hotfix module. One of the benefits of downloading that as the module and then installing it as the module is then you are able to look across your DNN instances and look and see it as an active module that has been installed in the site. That module does not need to go on a page. There is no purpose of placing it on a page. Technically, I did give it a shot, and it doesn't actually install anything on a page. It removes off or doesn't complete an action. So it's simply the act of installing it. Some of the descriptions of it are correct. It is focusing on Telerik-related controls, and the verbiage and the description in the security update really well allude to that this is an issue that is not something with DNN core code or DNN itself. This is a third-party component related issue, and that instantly was Telerik is what came to mind for myself. It reminds me somewhat of years ago with FCK Editor. Morning, Rhett. With FCK Editor and the issue that we had similarly with FCK Editor needing to be replaced quickly. For the most part, applying this to DNN instances 7.2 and above, again, I ran through about 15 to 18 in DNN instances last night without a single problem. It installs quickly. Afterwards, it is recommended that you go ahead and do a run with the security analyzer to take a look for any files that have been recently added to your website or any files that have changed recently in your website. That's a point of just general best practice. However, one of the things to mention is that this potential vulnerability could be that, like the FCK editor, users are able to upload files to the DNN instance. So what you're looking for there are files that may have been uploaded as a backdoor to your website. So here are the problems. Again, several instances that we installed this patch on, and it went smooth as anything. Not a single problem. The minute I was confident about it, I started two at once, and both of them bricked instantly. What I have been able to figure out so far is that in those instances where there was an instant conflict and problem, and there could be other reasons, but in my particular case, it was because those instances already had been updated to the same Telerik version or a slight version different of that Telerik version, and the web config was slightly different, and those Telerik files were also slightly different than the 2013 version. So I'm going to talk about that in a second.
I was going to say in the chat window,
yep.
Heather sent North Carolina Wildlife that she did an install of the patch in a web file for her.
That is fantastic. I think that in most common DNN, basically this patch only applies for DNN 7.1.2 and above. So as long as you're above that, this patch is going to install pretty smoothly, pretty easily.
But I will say the concern, the actual vulnerability, is in 5.2 and up.
That is correct. That is a really good point, David. It is about this Telerik control, and this Telerik control has been around for a very long time, and they are very specific. They tell you that versions of DNN younger than that are also still vulnerable because they have the same Telerik control in it. However, they did not build a patch for that because there are other problems that you're going to also be facing. You need to get up to the highest versions you can on those. You can manually apply these Telerik files. So it is two Telerik files. One of them is the Telerik DLL. The other one's the Telerik Skin Web UI DLL. And the two of those, if you look at the properties of those two DLLs, you're going to see that they have a 2013 date in them in the older versions. And once they are updated by this patch, they have a 2015 date or version. So that goes smoothly, again, that I've seen many times out of all the ones that we did. In the ones where it bombed or the website, I took a look back at those, and they already were running a 2015 version of those Telerik controls, but just two numbers off or a couple of numbers off. So they were running something that was newer. It wasn't the 2013. But I have yet to determine where or why those were updated. I can see that those happened to be DNN 7.3.4, so I'm not sure if that is where those earlier came from, or if I had another third-party module that had also updated those particular Telerik module DLLs already.
So Morgan was saying in the chat that they only know of 2 scenarios that will quote unquote brick a site. The first one being that you're already running a newer version of Telerik. And the second one being that you're using a CDN and you're needing to clear the CDF cache.
That's a really good point. That with a CDN, anytime you're doing anything in a CDN, you have to have a way to load it directly without that CDN when you're doing something like this, so that you can actually see the real results of what are running on the server versus something that's coming up partially cached or wholly cached. So that's a really good point. But yeah, I believe that matches, Will. Thank you. That the 2 versions that I had were, just a couple numbers off from the one that was being replaced, and the reason of the brick mentions that there were other key dependencies and the version number of Telerik didn't match. So there were other Telerik items that were relying on that didn't happen to match. Rollback. Sorry, go ahead.
I was say he also added that some third-party modules might distribute a different version of Telerik. They really shouldn't do that.
And that's what I think happened here. I haven't been able to go through the modules to figure out which one possibly had updated the Telerik DLLs for us. But just to mention it to everybody, rolling back is fairly straightforward. In my situation here, I was able to simply comment out or rename to a .back those 2 newer replaced DLLs, and then drop back in my originals. And then in my web config, I simply replaced back out with my copy of the web config. So with just 2 easy steps, I was running back the original version of the site again. So if you do brick your site, as long as you have FTP or remote desktop access, it's fairly straightforward. You don't have to wipe out your DNN instance and do a complete restore. It is just those 2 files in your web config, and you should be back.
So he added another comment that says, just because you're using a newer version of Telerik doesn't mean you're protected.
So Will's question. He says, just because you're using a newer version of Telerik doesn't mean you're protected. Does that mean that this specific Telerik pair of DLLs has been protected and other newer Telerik DLLs have not?
Well, there's more that's happening.
How about I just unmute? That might be a little bit easier.
Please join the conversation.
Put on the Darth Vader mask and break out the lightsaber.
I only answer questions if you're holding your lightsaber.
Oh, okay, hold on. Okay.
DNN's live stream.
I'm going to make this official.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, so yeah, just to clarify a few things. So, Ryan, fantastic job giving that overview. Definitely appreciate helping get the word out about this, because this is definitely a critical issue that everybody needs to update on. So Telerik also released a patch on Wednesday, just as we did. We worked very closely with Telerik to get the patch that we had. Telerik had to give us and work with us on a custom build to do that. So that's what enabled us to do that. In some of those instances where people are running their own version of Telerik, that happens a lot of times, especially for custom development. They're using their own version of the Telerik controls.
Yeah.
You need to reach out to Telerik and get an update. Telerik did release a service pack for their most current version of the Telerik ASP.NET Ajax controls on Wednesday. And if you have access to that, I would encourage you to use that. Now, what I would recommend in that respect is that install our patch if you can, and then replace that Telerik DLL with the one from Telerik if you have access to that most recent version. Our understanding is that Telerik does plan to have some additional patches for some of their older versions shortly. They're still working through that.
To that point, Will, some folks were asking the questions of, why install the module if I could just get the 2 DLL files and put them in place. And I would reiterate that there are web config changes where it's obviously just changing version numbers and old to new version number, so it's 2 or 3 lines in the web config. But then in my type of scenario, obviously I'm keeping good notes, but it's easy to forget which sites you've patched and which sites you haven't. And all I have to do is hit a site and load the extensions page to see that module present. So I would encourage everybody to go ahead and install that module, even if, like Will was saying, even if you have to replace the DLLs afterwards, it helps you see that you have been patched.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Yeah, because there's actually two items that are being addressed in that patch. So one is this most recent from Telerik. Then there's actually a bit of an older vulnerability that's been around since 2014 that we're also addressing too. That one was just brought to our attention, and it's really not. It doesn't require a code fix. It just requires hardening. That's why the web config is actually being updated. The web config is getting some enhanced encryption keys that Telerik needs in order to maintain security for some of their upload capabilities.
All right. Well, unless, Will, you have anything else to add into it, I think we covered our bases there with the security updates. It was a bit of a whirlwind yesterday morning as everyone got up to speed and really are still getting up to speed. But I'd encourage everybody, if you have questions or if you have issues as you start to get through those, reach out to all the rest of us in the DNN community. Obviously, within the DNN site, it does describe there that if you have any questions or concerns, you should email security@DNN Software so that you can put in any questions that you have, and they'll be gone through. Agree, Will? Yep. All right.
Agree. Completely agree. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Will, for joining us. We're going to switch gears here as we start to talk a little bit about our next guest. Bogdan has, my introduction for Bogdan and DNN Sharp really was made here in the screen on their homepage of the website. I was going to say that they are a top DNN module developer. They are a top vendor that has been around for a while and keep producing innovative DNN modules, extensions, and elements to really enhance our use of DNN. And I remember paying attention to some of the creative new ideas that were coming out, like the Sharp look. When that came out, that made a lot of waves, and I remember a meeting here where we were watching and everyone had oohs and ahs and gasps of excitement as we saw things that were being put out. And I think that today is going to be very similar to that. So with that as an introduction, Bogdan, I'm going to pass it over to you, and we're going to have you share your screen, but we're going to get an introduction to a new offering from DNN Sharp that's called the DNN Admin or DNN Admin Platform.
Thanks for the introduction, Ryan. And let me see how I share my screen.
Well, I tried, but it's not going.
Oh, ask if you can share your screen. Okay.
Did that work, Bogdan?
Yeah, it says to ask if I can share my screen, so I click it. Maybe someone has to approve it.
It would be you, David.
I'm giving you presenter control. You should just be able to accept it and start.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Okay.
Excellent. Ooh.
We already started with the oohs. Okay. Take it away, Bogdan.
Okay, so you can see the DNN admin website?
Yes, we do.
Because I have two screens and I'm not sure which one I shared. So again, thanks for the introduction and thanks for having me today to show you this platform that we built. So I'll just give you a brief introduction about what DNN admin is, and then I will just jump into the demo, because if that works well, you'll get a better idea of what DNN admin is about. So basically, DNN admin is an online platform. So it doesn't live on a client server or on a DNN server. It's an online service. It's built with DNN and with DNN Sharp entirely. And on this platform, you register DNN instances to manage them remotely. So far, most of the features that we have are focused on deployments. That is single page deployments, extension deployments, portal deployments, and solution deployments. And you'll see this in the demo. And the nice thing about it is that you can make the operation in bulk. So you can create a group of instances and then do an operation on all the instances at once. And I will show you in the demo how to deploy, for example, the security patch, how I will deploy it to maybe 100 websites at once. And this, of course, saves a lot of time and a lot of resources. It frees up a lot of resources because many of these tasks are tedious, like you do repetitive, like you ran it last night for 15 or 20 instances. And also, when you do it a lot of times, it tends to also be error prone, and somebody also has to do QA, and it gets more complicated. And anyone can do it because you don't have to know DNN. You don't have to even log into DNN to make a deployment. You can do it directly from the DNNadmin.com website. And I'll jump right into the demo. I will talk a bit about security while I install the module and explain how it works. And we design it with a free plan in mind that we'll give it to our clients so they can use it to deploy our modules, the DNN Sharp modules, to their instances. And then we have capped prices for more usage. What usually happens so far is that we have a few clients that we work with closely to implement their specific needs. I mean, they have this common pain that maybe everybody has it, but then they have more specific needs, and we need to work together with them to implement them. So I log into the website. I already created a demo account for this demo. And after login, the first screen that I see is the Getting Started guide, because it's really simple. You download a remote management module, and this one needs to be installed on all the DNN instances. And this is basically a one-time process that you have to do on all the instances. Once you've done this, the rest of the deployment can be automated. And even the deployment of remote management update can be automated to DNN admin. And I will show you that in the demo. And here on the instances screen, I already have an instance that is connected to this account, but for this demo, I have a second instance where I don't have anything yet. It's a clean instance. So I will show you how I can connect this instance to my DNN admin account, and after that, how I will do deployments with it. So I still have to get used to this DNN9 interface.
Yeah, don't we all?
Okay, so I will install the remote management module, which installs as any module. And then I will add it to a page, which will let me connect it back to DNNadmin.com. Now, this communication is very secure because it uses HTTPS, even if the website doesn't support HTTPS. Because what DNNadmin does is just sends a message to the website telling I have a package for you, but it doesn't send a package. So the website, the DNN instance, connects back over HTTPS asking for the package. And also there are other authentication layers, so it's very secured. So maybe I'll just create a new page and place it on that page. Okay, so now I have the button to connect to the instance to my DNN admin account because I'm logged in my DNN admin account. If I logged out and refresh the screen, then it will ask for login first, and then I can connect the instance. Okay, so I will not go through this screen yet. I'll just go back to the DNN admin. Actually, I should already be logged in without access to the login page. So now on the instance screen, I will also see the second instance. So now I have two instances connected to my account, and actually I can connect any number of instances. I could have hundreds of instances. The next thing to do is to group these instances in what we call clusters. So in order to be able to do bulk updates, you'll create a cluster and then deploy it to the entire cluster. I already have a cluster that has my original instance, but now I can also add the other instance as well. We do have plans in the future to also create some automatic clusters, like maybe a cluster that has all the instances, and then maybe cluster based on DNN version, and maybe cluster based on either they have a module installed, a specific module. So it's easier, for example, to deploy an action form updates only to those instances that actually have action form installed. So now that I have this basic setup, I can go and use the deployment tools. And these are all located in the tools menu. And I will start with the extension deployment. Now, what you see here is actually, I had my team fix and adjust a few things for this demo. So what I did, I deployed updates to remote management also through DNN admin. So I didn't have to go to these both instances to deploy the remote management update. I just use it here. So now I will deploy to the security patches to these two instances. I will just check that they are not already installed. So no security patch here. And no security patch here. So these are my two instances, DNN admin 1 and DNN admin 2. So now I create a new deployment. I choose the file, and this will be the, I should have it somewhere. Yeah, the security hotfix. And then I select which cluster to deploy to. And then I have the option to deploy automatically, or let the website administrator choose when they want to deploy. In this case, I will just deploy it automatically. So it created two new deployments and the status is pending. We don't have an automatic refresh here yet. But if I refresh, now it says done. And what this done means is it successfully delivered the message to the instance, and the instance is now processing the package. And I should see my website recycling now, and it will take a bit. And after that, I should be seeing the security hotfix installed.
That was going to be one of my first questions, was after you've applied some type of change, do you have to manually go and kick the sites to restart application bins and restart if necessary, but it seems to do that automatically?
Yeah, it will do it automatically. Because when we deploy, we also use some of the DNN installation scripts, so we are not doing it ourselves, so we are not unzipping everything and putting it in place. We use DNN code, and to trigger that, we make another request to the sites to install it. So the website will start automatically, you don't have to visit it. Okay, so let's check that everything went fine. Yeah, so now I can see the DNN security hotfix here, and I should see the DNN security hotfix here. So now I only have 2 instances, but if I had 20 or 100 instances, that would have taken the same amount of time. because each instance does its own work. DNN admin just tells all instances that I have a package for you, and they all connect to DNN admin just to get a package, but not actually the zip files. The zip files we store on S3, so they actually download it from S3. So there is no bottleneck on DNN admin or on the DNN instances besides this communication, getting the package from DNN admin and then the files from S3.
I don't want to stop you too soon with questions, but as you make a deployment like that, if there are, let's say, 4 different DNN instances in your cluster, and one of those already had the hotfix applied, what would occur in that type of situation? Would it gracefully handle making it to 3 and seeing that it was already in place and not doing one of them?
Yeah, I think it looks at the version and it doesn't do repair install. I think actually we might have that as a configuration option if you want to force reinstall or not. Because when you install in DNN, normally if it's the same version, it will ask for it will ask to repair the install.
Right.
Yeah. So for this feature, extension deployments, basically our clients had 2 scenarios in mind. They wanted to keep all the instances in sync. They didn't have this scenario with deploying security updates. This is a new scenario, I would say. But they have like maybe 30 or 100 DNN instances, and they want to keep all in sync. I mean, if there is an update of a module, deploy it on all instances, so they wouldn't have to worry that DNN instance has that version and the other has another version, and remember all the details about it. But this is also, and we use this for deploying new customers. So we have an image that has just this remote management module installed, and then we deploy the image, and the rest of the module we install from DNN admin, and it's an easier process. And this is, of course, maybe you can see this is not final yet. I mean, we have a lot of goodies to add here. For example, we are thinking here that the clients could have a database of their own builds here, and then they can reuse the same builds to deploy and just maybe have a list of checkboxes like they can tick and just deploy everything at once. So there are many features that we can add here. And I think as you go with me through this demo, you will also get a lot of ideas of what can be accomplished with this kind of solution. I will jump into the next features. I will keep the best for the last. So the next 2 features are a single page deployment and portal deployments. These are actually requested by a customer, which has the following use case. They do deployments from dev to test to staging and then to production. They do it maybe a dozen times a day. And this used to be a manual process, and they wanted to automate it to eliminate human errors and also reduce the time it takes to export, import files, check that everything is fine, and so on. So first, I will show you the single page deployment, which is very simple, just some metadata here about the deployment, and then I can choose the origin from where I want to deploy, a portal, a page. Let's say I want to deploy the about page, which should be this page. And I want to deploy it to the other side that that is clean. I've just created, which is the DNN admin 2. And then I choose on which portal to deploy. And then I can either create a new page or import into an existing page, overwriting it. So I would just create a new page, put it, give it the same name. Something is wrong here. Let me try again. Okay, now it's fine. So I can put it after the homepage. Oh, no, yeah, after the homepage. Okay. Come on. Okay. And then I can publish the page. This is an evoke feature. So all these features also work with evoke. And the nice thing about this is that, oh, okay, so I had it earlier, but I cleaned everything for the demo. I should just empty the recycle bin.
Yeah, Bogdan, I don't mind seeing that type of error message. That shows that it gracefully handles that type of situation. That's a good message to see.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to say that I made this demo on purpose, leaving that in recycle bin.
What is he deploying?
A single page. So he's taking a page from one website and deploying that same page to another website. So the scenario was many corporate IT departments where they want to have a ridiculous amount of testing environments. So they've got a dev, and then they've got a QA, and then they've got a prod, and then they've got live, and oh my God. And so I can completely see the need for easily pushing these things from one to one to one to one.
That way,
yeah.
Yep. So now the idea is that also the person doing this doesn't have to know anything about DNN, so an IT manager could do it.
And the IT manager should know something about DNN, but the fact that they don't is commonplace.
Yeah. So now I have the about page on this DNN admin admin 02 website. And also this fixes a few of DNN problems, like you can migrate pages from various DNN versions. Sometimes you get into troubles if you try to export a page from a DNN version and import it into a much different DNN version. And also it works with existing modules. Like sometimes you have a module that, let's say it's set to display on all pages. This feature that we implemented will actually take that into account. It will not create a new module. It will look at some information about the module and determine if it should use an existing module that's already on the portal on the rest of the pages, or just create a new one.
That's no small feat right there. That's impressive.
And also, same for this customer, they want to deploy entire portals. And that is the other feature.
Yes.
That I'm showing here.
I thought of you about that.
And it's about the same thing. Choose an origin and then a target. And the nice thing for this portal deployment feature is that you can also overwrite an existing portal, not just create a new portal. So I could overwrite my website, but I will not do this because it will break the next part of my demo.
That sounds amazingly powerful and scary at the same time. That's really interesting. To ask a question while you're going through this step, what is it doing behind the scenes? Is it using the DNN, the DNN ability to make a portal template, and it's doing an export of a portal template first and then applying that, or is it doing something custom to apply this portal?
It's doing something custom. So when you create a deployment, DNN admin sends a message to the origin saying that it needs the package, and the origin creates a zip file, and we put metadata about the tabs. We also use like iPortable. We need to use iPortable to get information about the content from the modules. But the rest is pretty much we do it ourselves, creating those zip files. I think we also we also use some of the features of the export tab, but I'm not really sure about the details of the implementation. I didn't go that deep into development.
Okay.
So if you have a third-party module that doesn't use that portable,
That's where I was going.
Well,
The questions around the table are that if you have a third party, if you have on your site a third party module that already is going to have a problem with the portal export, it would also potentially have a problem here, because if it's not using iPortable correctly, then it's already going to have a problem, right?
We have those special cases, and we also have it with some of our modules. Like my tokens is not really iPortable, and Sharp Scheduler is not really iPortable. And in the next part of the demo, I will show you that we also particular for those modules, but it needs to be some work done for them. So now I'm creating a new portal on DNN Admin 2, which is actually a copy of the DNN Admin 1. And then I have also a few options here if I want to get portal setting, roles, and files in this package. So now I will also see the status here. I think also we don't have a refresh here yet. It already exported. Now it's pending in a queue. Still pending. Now it's deploying. So the instance is now processing, downloading, and processing the package. And this should take roughly about a few seconds. Oh, and it failed for some reason. But now we can go to the remote management, or we can also go into DNN admin, and then would be some logs here. And then we can see why it fails. Okay, this is the most useful error in C#. Okay, I'm not sure what didn't work here, but basically that's the idea. I actually did it earlier. I did it for the DNN admin 01. What I did is I created it as a sub portal. So I have DNN admin 01, and then I created a copy of this portal 0 into the same instance. So I also have portal 1 that is basically the same site. So if I go /portal1, it's about the same site. Okay, and now if you don't have any questions, I will move to the final part of the demo, which I think is the most interesting part. We call it the solution packager, the solution deployment.
I don't know. Whole portal copying is a difficult thing, and that shouldn't be treated as lightly or not the most exciting thing ever. I think that is a very exciting feature and element here of this.
Yeah, I'm happy. But wait until you see this one.
Okay, all right.
Uh-oh. He said, "Oh no,
There's more."
but wait."
Yeah. So this is basically for deploying parts of the website, like encapsulating functionality. Like let's say you have a help center that you want to deploy to 10 customers. And the help center consists maybe of a set of pages, a set of roles, and some database table. What I created here on the first instance, the first test instance that I have, I created a simple CRM solution. Like this is becoming annoying. Like I have a simple lead management. This is an action grid module, and I also have a lead page where I use a form to populate this table with leads. Just a simple form, just a basic. And then I also have 2 roles set up for these 2 different pages. So one is data entry that can use the form, and one is view, which can view the grid. And they both use a database table. Now, what I want to do is to make this CRM into a package that I can deploy to existing portals. And I do this using solutions. So I create a new solution. And then I have to define a instance from where the solution is built. So I build it from the portal, the default portal in the first instance. And here I can start adding things to my solution. I can add some roles. So I will add the 2 roles.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We had it on mute, but we all gasped at this one screen. Woo! It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and then we add some extensions. So I know that this extension depends on action form and action grid. So I add them to the solution. And then I know that I want some pages. And here is what I was telling you about Sharp Scheduler. That if I had Sharp Scheduler, I could also add some jobs to deploy. And if I had my tokens installed, I could also add some tokens to deploy. But I don't have this installed on the system. But we've built a special interface to handle modules that are not iPortable. But there is some more to do. I'm not sure if the work is to do in the module or we can do it from the remote management module. I think my developers know more about this. And finally, I need to add some scripts to set up the database. So I can, I have it saved here somewhere. I just have a table with ID, name, email, and some notes. So now I just click build, and it creates this package that has all those things inside. And I can deploy this to an existing port. Actually, I can deploy this to a cluster. So if I had, let's say, 20 instances, I would build, let's say, I have a system for marketing, a system for help desk, maybe a system for leads, for sales. And I could make updates on a machine to the system and then deploy to the rest of the system, so I keep them in sync. And again, I have the option to do automatic deployment, and maybe this time I will try it without automatic deployment, so you see how that works also. So now this is a queue. And at some point it will get processed and sent to the instances. Not picking up yet. Maybe I will try it again with automatic deployment. Let's see. My DNNs, automatic deployments, deploy. Okay, so now it's processed. So what happens now on these 2 instances? Actually, I could have not deployed on this instance because it already has the solution, but it doesn't break anything. And what it happens on this other machine is interesting because it will install those 2 extensions, it will create the roles, it will create the pages, it will add the modules to the pages and import the content into the modules. And also run the SQL to create the database table. Oh, okay.
Oh no!
It looks like the design of your site changed there.
That's a feature. Right?
Yeah, I think here is because earlier I installed the Search Boost development version.
Uh,
So maybe I will fix this really
The way of the
quick.
demo. No worries. So Bogdan, just as some general overview or recap questions, the structure and the function of what we're seeing here. If we had 3 DNN instances to update, then the setup and the work with inside of DNN Admin might not quite be enough for the hurdle or the learning curve for you if you were managing 3 DNN instances that you needed to keep synced up. But once you start crossing a level of either repetition and number of times a day you have to be doing these tasks, or number of times you have to take a disparate group and get them all at the same level, I could see that very quickly this can pay off as a tool to allow you to save so much time doing very manual work. This is a very impressive, lofty goal of a development task or solution.
I'm wondering if you're copying a portal template, if it's multilingual, will it handle that as well?
Yeah, we also export all the portal localization. Yeah, so I tried the solution deployment again. This time I just copied back some Search Boost DLL so it doesn't complain.
Are you saying Search Boost is a buggy module? Is that what?
No. Search Boost is awesome.
No, I was just testing here earlier with various extensions, and at the end I just cleaned everything, but apparently not everything.
Yes.
But that's the way of the demo.
Clint, on the chat, have we had any questions pop up that we didn't either chime in along with or pause for?
There's one question that's impressive.
No. So we haven't had any questions in the chat, but I do have a couple of questions I would like to ask. You know, I mean, so Bogdan, obviously this is, you know, epic stuff. I mean, major kudos for just thinking outside of the box and doing something really cool. All I'm thinking about is, like, you know, the security stuff, right? And I know you said it is secure and all that, but I'm wondering if you've had any, like, you know, like you said earlier, like you had an external auditor come in and they were like hammering you for, you know, issues. Have you run it past any type of, you know, just security test to see, you know, if they highlight any issues? And then the second question would be, so like if well, I got one more. The final question is this for sale yet? But my second question is, like, if I were to purchase, you know, a subscription or whatever you call it, I'm essentially, I guess, giving DNNadmin.com host access, right? They can install stuff to my site. So then I have to start worrying about, is DNNadmin.com, you know, secure, and what if they get hacked, and then they, like, all my customers? And so those are just the thoughts that come into my mind. So I'm just around the security, like, have you run it against any kind of like audit checks? And if I put all my sites in your hand, are you going to treat them nicely and care for them? And then also, is this
open for yeah? Is it released yet? Yeah.
Yeah. So for the security, we haven't done any on our side. We haven't done any of this kind of automated things yet. We implemented 3 layers of security, I think.
I like to hear the confidence.
Yeah, 4 layers of security with the shotgun that's in the back corner. That's the level of security that Clint's bringing into his websites.
Yeah. So one is the HTTPS layer that I told you about. The instances always communicate over HTTPS, and also because the DNN instance connects back to the DNN Admin .com website. So there's nobody else that could send a package to your instance. If he sends a package, it just sends, I have something for you, but then the instance would connect to dnnadmin.com. So maybe someone in between can change the DNS for the DNN admin to point to someone else. But then there's also like a authentication layer between the DNN admin and the instance where they store some tokens, some security tokens that they exchange. And finally, the person that's doing the deployment doesn't have to be a portal administrator or portal host or a DNN host. It's just a user on dnnadmin.com. That's one side of the security. The other side is that we don't store anything. Like when I, for example, when I
it's one module talking to their system. There is some inherent security that these two things are talking to each other.
I'm just wondering if you would get hammered. So like, let's say I go to work for a government and I'm like, oh, we're going to run DNN. Then I'm like, we're going to make this awesome. And then I get some, I don't know, compliance, something.
Yeah.
To that end, could it be possible to activate or inactivate the DNN admin
We got an audit come and turn it off.
No, you turn it on when you need to use it. As in, it's inactive unless you are ready to use it, and then it's turned off otherwise.
Yeah, but how would you technically know if it was or was not, right?
Bogdan,
I guess you could monitor the traffic, right?
Bogdan, with the module that you have to place onto a page, that module is visible, that page or that module is visible to the public, not in the menu, or it's login protected? What's the state of that module and that page?
It doesn't have to be to the public because you don't want the public to see this, what you're doing. For me, it's an administrator only page, and you can also delete it after you click the connect button.
Oh, I thought it had to remain in place the whole time.
No, this is just to connect the instance and maybe see the logs, because what you see here inside is actually an iframe from dnnadmin.com website. And it's also using that security token to authenticate the iframe.
Oh, I see.
And it communicates with web APIs. So it doesn't matter if you have this module on the page after you connected it. You can just remove it, and DNN admin sends a request to a web API from the module, which doesn't have to be in a physical module on a page.
Which makes sense. With DNN Sharp API and an ability to create your own complex APIs there, you're probably doing a fair amount of that underneath the hood.
Yeah, exactly.
So for the David Poindexter question do you need a mobile app for this?
That is my question.
For now, you cannot disable it, but you can disconnect it. So I could disconnect this instance, and then I can reconnect it later if I wanted to.
I see. Okay.
And also,
something.
Black magic.
You need a master administration tool that allow you to remote disconnect a bunch and then remote connect again.
You can also disconnect it from DNN. You have the same function.
Then you have to go connect them all. And if you got hundreds, then that's a lot of time. Very, very, very exciting, Bogdan. If anybody else online has questions, this would be a good time to put them in front of the man himself to answer and go through. Anybody else here around the table have questions about this? Rut, I thought of your situation with so many, a handful of DNN instances with so many portals per DNN instance that, my thought and what I was paying attention to in presentation was how you could sync up so many portals very quickly. And maybe some are newer and some are older, some have sections and some don't.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That ability to quickly apply across the board, especially with SQL scripts that can go on top of that, much less adding in files on top of that. Those are all steps you can't do if you're doing it as applying a portal template.
True. Hey, Bogdan, go ahead.
No, our problem is deploying, how to choose to deploy a new admin page that needs to go out to all 800 portals.
Right.
I don't have an easy way to do that right now.
You're right.
Yeah. I mean,
adding a single page would be a way to do it. Adding a solution would be a way to do it.
Hey, Bogdan, I'm assuming you're sticking with a SaaS model on this, but are there any plans at some point to, in certain scenarios, make DNN admin capabilities available for closed systems?
Right.
Because I'm thinking of, a lot of
Government
closed systems
organization
are
where
not,
they'd want to have
they
their
wouldn't be able to
own.
benefit from this because
Right.
it's behind their firewall.
Yeah. Right now, no, but I mean, if a client comes and wants to needs this, we can discuss, reach a custom deal and make their own DNNadmin.com instance.
A situation where you could help install that for them, and that can certainly be part of your contract agreements with them, that they are making a portable version of DNN admin that you are setting up, but it's that one location. They can't leave with it, of course.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we do want to keep this, even if it's on premise, we do want to keep this subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yes. Maybe since we know a little bit more about the different pieces, can you go back on screen just to show us the different levels of the service?
On the homepage here?
Yes.
I was also wondering if you had a list handy for the hundreds or thousands of other vendors' modules that you guys work with.
You've got extension deployment, which is guaranteed kind of at a first top level. Then we've got page deployment, and at page deployment, 50 page versus 200 page. That means at a time, as in a.
No, this is per month.
Per month, I see. Yeah. And then portal deployment is getting up to then 100 portals deployed. But that's different than solution, as in it would be a whole portal, whereas solution is a section or group of just pages, modules, files, custom stuff. Everything, yeah.
And I'm not sure, I will have to talk to my sales guy that designed this. I'm not sure if this is the number of deployments, because it doesn't make sense. I think maybe it's the number of solutions that you can build in a month.
In the end, and you're good. Put it at 50.
Yeah.
Okay, so then.
So do you have a list of those other vendors that are supported, or no?
What do you mean? For the extension deployment, you can deploy any extension. I mean, you just upload it. For now, we don't hold the builds. The DNN admin user uploads the build, so we don't provide the data.
Okay, I think I was reading it wrong. It means that you can deploy 100 other. 100.
This is 100 deployments. Yeah, 100 deployments per month.
Okay, so you might want,
including from other vendors.
All those numbers are monthly.
But it's unlimited for DNN Sharp modules. Yeah. So those deploy unlimited amounts of those. They don't go towards account. Everything else does. Then just to ask, their third-party modules go towards account, but core modules don't, or core modules also count?
I'm not sure. I think we can make free of charge.
David asked core modules. Let's just say HTML module.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you need to deploy that? It's already there.
The content.
Oh, the content. No. But that's not an
extension.
Right, you're right. That wouldn't be. Yeah. Okay, so core module. The links module.
It's not core though. It used to be.
But it's not a third-party module. Yeah, I know.
So are there DNN prompt tie-ins for this?
DNN prompt tie-ins. Okay. Yeah, that would probably break your mind at that point. You combine the two of them together, and then you can do prompt across all, and then you're the Kwisatz Haderach, and you're able to see through time, I believe.
But his thing was that you didn't have to know DNN in order to do it.
Right. So probably go get stuff.
Well, Bogdan, we are enjoying spending time here in this, and if we spend time thinking about it, we can probably come up with about 10 more use case questions and things to ask you. But we know we have Scott sitting in the wings here, and we need to move into his presentation. So before before I let you go, since it is late for you, thank you so much for coming to join us. Everybody, please give Bogdan a round of applause, if not for his great presentation, but as well for such an incredible undertaking here. When you envisioned this, or you had a first thought of building something like this, I could imagine it seemed daunting, and you've produced something amazing. You and your group certainly have tackled a challenging idea here, and I'm excited to see this.
And I think just to, if you allow me to finish, this is only the beginning. I mean, we have so many ideas, like making, including backups, including DNN upgrades, and all sorts of features. So this could be, and also like maybe centralizing logs, synchronizing users between sites. There are tons of options that we can do once we have these infrastructures. So it's only about getting the right ideas and the right clients.
Very, very, very nice. Very exciting. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much, Bogdan. We're going to switch presenter, and Scott, if you are with us and hanging in the wings, we're going to swap over to you and bring you in.
Oh, he's on the web version. He's going to get a downloading request.
All right. So we.
Oh gosh, I have to download it.
we just said that. Yeah, that web version is a stinker. It doesn't always do what you expect it to do.
Oh, I hate that web version. But you can introduce Scott while
Absolutely.
he's
So you want to make me presenter then for a second? I'll pop over. Oh, well,
it says I'm sharing, but I don't see it yet.
Well, we do see a screen. We see your practical persona bar deployment.
Okay.
So we see your slide. Oh, that might be it. You just don't see.
Yeah, he'll just see.
He wouldn't see anything.
Scott Wilkinson is with Blue Bolt. You'll find him at .NET Nuclear on Twitter, and he is a perennial favorite to run into at conventions, and is a great presenter. One of the things that he did up at DNN Connect was present a little bit of information about the persona bar and developing for the persona bar. And I won't steal your thunder there and let you get into this, but it's not an easy thing to do. There are some starter templates and information that is out there that if you follow will get you started and familiar with the ideas, but bringing it home to something usable can prove to be more difficult than you'd imagine. And Scott walked people through that and gave practical examples, and I said we need to have something like that here for Southern Fried. So thank you, Scott, for joining us and for giving us a run through of the persona bar.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully, I'm sure I can't top what Bogdan did. That was pretty impressive, but at least you'll learn a little bit. And also, I just wanted to say that this was I gave this as a not only at the DNN Connect, but I also did a lunch and learn at Blue Bolt on this topic. So I modified it slightly for that. It took about a little over an hour. So obviously, we're gonna have to go kind of quickly here, but to get this down to about 25 minutes. But so at the end, I'll give you all the resources. So
Hey,
you
got 40. You're good to go. So squeeze,
okay.
but you don't have to squeeze to 20 minutes. You got 40.
60 to
Okay. So let's get into it. You guys are familiar. I think I'm talking to some power users here. Was a persona bar extension. So the difference between the admin, what was it called, the control bar before, and now it's the persona bar. And you know just to give some background on why DNN did this. Obviously, they started with doing this in earlier versions of Evoke, and then they decided to bring it into the platform, the open source platform. And three main reasons why they did this. The first one is the old control bar, which was nice, but it was written into the page, right? So it would be affected by skins, and we often see that as skin developers, where in fact I've yelled at a lot of our front-end developers to say, hey, you know, your skin is smushing up the not only the control bar menu, but also some of the admin, you know, text boxes. And we've all been there. If you've developed skins, you can really mess up the admin tools and the control bar with your skin. With the persona bar, it's an iframed in component, so it's not affected at all by the skin. Another reason why they did it this way is they also made it extensible to where you could develop admin extensions for it. I mean, we just saw that demo that Bogdan did where, you know, we had to develop a module that had to be put onto a page. Well, imagine if the installation just simply installed it in the persona bar, which only admins can see it anyway. That would have simplified the configuration process of his module. Now, I understand why he did it that way, because he has to support previous versions of DNN as well. But if we're starting at DNN 9, that could certainly just be a persona bar extension. And the other reason they did this is, well, how many reasons did I say? 3? I can't remember the third one. I'm having a Rick Perry moment, but you know, you guys can probably come up with other reasons why they did it this way.
You didn't get to faster and maybe screen space.
Yeah, that's true too. It is faster as you probably have used it, having it kind of come out. You make your changes. It's all React based, JavaScript, Web API based. Exactly, it's faster. So I told you, we discussed what a persona bar extension is from the front end, but what is a persona bar extension from a developer perspective? Well, it's just a series of files that gets put into a very specific folder, much like a module, right? The difference is where it's located. So a module gets put in desktop modules. A persona bar extension gets put in the desktop modules admin dnn.personabar modules folder. And the convention is, so really it's, the construct of a persona bar module is an HTML file with a JavaScript, a CSS file, and a resource file, resx file. And so it's convention based. Basically what they say is, if you create a folder in here that's unique, and I like to use the convention that DNN uses, where I use the company name, DNN dot, and then whatever that persona bar extension is going to do, like DNN dot roles or DNN dot users. And you can see right now in your DNN 9 installation, all the DNN persona bar extensions that are deployed. So creating my own, I would simply create my own folder for it, and I would create these 3 folders here: app, local resource, CSS scripts, and I would put 3 files in it, all with the same name, but with just different extensions. You know, the resource file, CSS, JS, and HTML. We talk a lot at the at these at the DNN Summit, DNN Connect, when we talk about persona bars, about how they use React, and we'll talk about React if we have time later. But the important thing to note is, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a React-based persona bar extension. It can simply be some HTML you put in there. The React comes into, the advantage of making it React is that you could leverage all the input components that DNN provides and make it look like a consistent, have a consistent look and feel as the other DNN persona bar extensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my other view here, and I'm going to show you, if you could see this. Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit. So here is my desktop modules admin DNN persona bar and modules. So here's the folder that we're going to put it. I've created a folder in here, and you can see that here are my files. If you want to see what all the other extensions look like, you can see they all look the same. They all have an HTML file, a scripts, CSS, app resources folder, and they all have the same naming. So going back to it, my PowerPoint here. Whoops, let me get off the magnifier. Another thing, so what those files that you just saw, there's no server-side, logic in there. The only server-side piece that I really should implement, and I don't have to, but I should, is a little C# class that implements a class that DNN provides in the API called iMenuItemController. And one of the main two methods that you can implement in here is this visible method and a getSettings method. Now, one of the things about the visible method is it almost doesn't need to be done on a platform installation. The reason is because by default, a DNN persona bar extension is going to be available to the administrator because the DNN persona bar itself is only available to the administrator role. In Evoke, you have 3 other roles that have access to the persona bar. The community manager, the content manager, and the content editors. So in Evoke, it's more important to implement the visible because you can then limit who gets to see, what role gets to see your particular extension, which ends up as a menu item in one of the persona bars. So I think in the future, DNN's probably going to allow us to maybe expand this out to where we can make custom roles have access to the persona bar, but at the moment it just doesn't work that way as far as I know. Only administrators get to see the persona bar at all, so your persona bar extension is going to be only visible to the administrator, and there's really no need to implement visible. getSettings is a way to provide a dictionary of settings to your persona bar front end, and there's really there's really not a good way of doing this. I've done this on one particular installation that I've done, but you can pretty much put settings, whether hard coded or they're stored in a custom table or maybe the portal settings. And so you can provide those kind of settings to your persona bar extension. And it's not a very common thing to do, but I could see that maybe being used more in the future. Installing a persona bar is the same as installing a module. For those of you who have built a module, you know that you have to package your module by zipping up the assets to your module that get put under your desktop module folder. And then you will provide, packaging information via the DNN manifest file. And the DNN manifest file is similar to all the different extensions. In a module, you'll have a component type module, and other type of extensions like authentication systems or whatever have different component types. For the persona bar, it is a component type persona bar menu. And there you will identify what the unique name of it. In this case, I use the convention company name dot and then the name of your persona bar extension. This will also, I would suggest, mirroring the folder that you put under that you contain this in. And then the module name is used internally in the persona bar extension. You can kind of see that in the code. It's also the naming convention of what those files need to be named. So if I name my module name PB Starter, I have to name all the files in my persona bar. Like I mentioned before, you have PB Starter HTML, PB Starter JS, and so on and so forth. So they have to match with that module name. The controller is similar to that module controller, the feature controller of our modules, but notice that this is the fully qualified namespace of a class called Admin Menu Controller. That is an implementation of my iMenu item controller. So this is how. So when I create a class that implements this, I simply put the fully qualified name of the class and my DLL in here. And that's really the only thing you can do to integrate this in, that implementation. But again, you don't need this. By default, if you don't provide this, your persona bar extension will still work. It'll just be visible to all administrators, and it won't have any internal settings. Now the resource key, you'll provide just a string, and this is going to be how DNN gets the name of your menu item. What I mean by that is, if you look at the persona bar, the name, well, this is not the, so I have a persona bar called restaurant menu, if you can see that. The name of this comes out of the resource file by way of this key. So I'd actually have a key called navpbstarter.txt in that resource file, and that would have the name of what I want the menu item to show. And the path, I'm not sure, the path
Is
yeah,
that
sorry?
Is that as a separate file like that to allow for localization?
Yeah, exactly. So in my app local resources folder, it's named pbstarter.resx. So this is where not only will the menu get your resources, but also any other resources that you get through some JavaScript utilities for your UI can also pull from that as well. Yeah, so the path, I think, I can't remember the difference between path and module name. I've always made them the same. And then mobile support, I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. I don't even know if DNN, maybe someone from DNN can chime in, but not sure what that is. Parent is important. So parent, you have essentially three choices here. The parent is where your menu item shows up under. So in a persona bar extension, I have no ability to change these root level persona bar root level menus. So the root level menus in the platform are content, manage, and settings. So I could choose which one I want that under. So right here, where I would specify either content, manage, or settings. That makes sense? And then the order is what order under that submenu I wanted this. So if in this example here, putting it under content order 2 would simply mean that it would put it as second under the second menu option under content. And I believe it's last one wins. So if I installed some other persona bar extension that also had number 1 or 2, it would just that would push it down. Any questions about the installation of that?
No, this is excellent.
Okay. Yeah, in my other demo, when we had more time, I would kind of show the how that worked. Now, a couple things that one thing that I did in our in the DNN Connect is a lot of the times when I'm talking to DNN Connect developers, I sort of had to do a history of software development. For those of us who are over 35, we always sort of have the nostalgia about what software development looked like, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. One of the things that one of the things that happens is that the persona bar development that I just showed you, that'll get you up and running with just a hello world HTML that gets thrown into the persona bar. But to do anything beyond that requires really you to learn some new skills. Now, just to give you some perspective of what those new skills are, in 2013 when I started doing DNN development, these are the 3 things I needed in order to develop a DNN extension. And I don't know if some of you guys can relate to this. And this is only 4 years ago, right? That wasn't that long ago. You needed to know a little bit of ASP.NET, some jQuery, and maybe you had this book here that was written in like 2012 or 11 with these 2 guys on it. And then in 2015, I think this is about the time I became an MVP, the only really new skill that I acquired was learning one of these new JavaScript frameworks like AngularJS, right? And those of you who are DNN Hero subscribers know that I've done several videos on Knockout and Angular, and basically writing SPA-type modules and making everything faster and more responsive. And then something happened in 2016 or 17. All of a sudden, just knowing a few technologies, like one or two JavaScript frameworks and ASP.NET was just not at all sufficient. And so now, when we want to develop a React-based component, we need to learn a lot of new skills. And I don't know if some of you guys, especially the older ones like me, old chunks of coal, this kind of crisis kind of came to me within the last 8-9 months. And so one of the reasons why I haven't been developing as many DNN Hero tutorials is because this is where I've been kind of woodshedding and trying to learn a lot of new stuff. So one of the things you notice if you go to some conferences, you learn from brilliant guys like Peter Donker and lots of other guys that are doing React development, both in persona bar extensions or maybe in modules, is the interesting thing of when they start developing, they're using VS Code and they're using all these different NPM and node-based technologies to develop these React components, and then they're somehow integrating them into DNN. It's a little bit daunting of a task. So the reason I'm calling this React this session practical React development is that I'm showing you skills on how to do this stuff without really having to learn all these tools and without having to learn a bunch of new like development frameworks like say Node.js and Visual Studio Code. Basically, the way I show how to do React development and persona bar development is using one tool, which is Visual Studio 2017, and with just minimum plugins to that. So hopefully that's appreciated among some of the developers here, especially the old chunks of coal like me who are not necessarily into all these new node-based tools. Okay, so in order to develop a React-based extension, the first thing we do need to install is Node.js and NPM, and they come as a Windows installation package. You don't have to know a whole lot to do this. You can basically just go to nodejs.com. Let me see if I can bring that. You basically just could go to nodejs.com or just do a Google search on Node.js and then click on the big download button here. Now, there's one thing you'll notice is there's two different versions of Node. One is called an LTS version, and one's a current version. The LTS version stands for, what does that stand for? Latest something? It's basically the stable version. And then the current version is just the later versions beyond that are not necessarily the stable versions. In Visual Studio, if you installed Visual Studio 2017, Node.js is built into Visual Studio with this latest this LTS version. But DNN has built a lot of the React stuff in a more recent version, I think version 7. And so one of the things we'll have to do is we'll have to install the more recent version of Node in order to make everything work properly. I had no problem installing 8 or any version of the current versions of 8 and it working. So you can just go ahead and download this version 8 current version and install it. And when you download, it's just going to install, or you just run the MSI installer and it says done, Node is installed. So once you're done with that, this is one step that has hung up a lot of developers when they're dealing with running Node and NPM from Visual Studio, in that they'll notice that when they run it from Visual Studio, nothing works right. You get all these errors, and the reason is because a lot of the, like I said, the DNN React components that you might be including with your persona bar extension were built in a newer version of newer versions of the Node.js components. And so what you want to do is tell Visual Studio the new version you want to use. So the way you do that is on projects, you go into Tools, Options, Project Solutions, External Web Tools, and Node by default, when you download it, will install under C Program Files Node.js. So what you do is you will click on this new external tool button. You'll type in the path, this path here, C Program Files Node.js, and then you'll move this to the top. So you could sort these external tools, sort this all the way to the top above this node modules bin. And that way, when you run some of the tools that I'll show you later, if we have time, you'll be running under the new version of Node.js and not the LTS version that comes with Visual Studio. And by the way,
Dustin looked up LTS for you, and he says it's long-term support.
Yeah, they have a page.
That's it.
They have a page that talks about the schedule of the versions getting
And when
end
it's
of
gonna
life
move up?
and when they're going to be LTS.
Ah, okay. So
interesting.
long-term support.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, somebody.
Long-term support.
That's a roadmap.
Yeah, essentially what it means is the stable version that is supported and probably all their documentation is written for. So yeah, so after you've dealt with, after you've installed Node and then you've installed, you've got the newer version set up in Visual Studio. The next thing you do is you could go to my GitHub page. And by the way, and I'll share the slide deck with you, maybe Ryan, and you could add it to the blog post or whatever, so you guys don't have to write anything down here, and you can have all the links that are in my presentation.
Yes, I was going to ask you if we linked to the same one from DNN Connect. If so, we were going to put that into the write-up here.
Yeah, I've made a few modifications to it, but that one has all the steps.
All right. Yeah, if not, we'll post one, obviously. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. So the next thing you'll do is you'll unzip a starter project. Now, this is going to be in the future a Visual Studio template, like one of Chris Hammond's project templates. I just haven't had time to do this yet. So what I mean a starter project, it's just simply a project, like a module project, that you simply unzip into the desktop modules folder that you can then open in Visual Studio and then start working from. So like I said, that'll eventually be a template, but for now you just unzip this project, and you know how it is. You take one project and then you rename a bunch of stuff and make it your own, right? So what I'm going to do, just to get started, is I'm going to go to my GitHub page, and I just, for now you could just download it as a zip. One thing that I noted before, that the persona bar, it gets installed in that different folder under the admin, whatever, DNN persona bar modules folder. But one thing I wanted to talk about here is I'm doing it a little bit differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to under desktop modules, I'm going to create a folder for my company name and then a folder for my project name. Now the reason, well, I'll explain later the reason I do that if we have time. Now let's see if I can find my correct. So I'm under here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to desktop modules, and I'm going to create a folder for. Well, I've already done that. I'll create a folder for Blue Bolt, and then I'm going to create a folder for PV Starter. And then here's the project. So basically, when you download that zip file from GitHub, it'll probably create a wrapper folder around it. Just unload everything that's in there inside the folder you created here. So for you, it'd be, like if it was .NET Nuclear, and then PV Starter. Yeah, so just unload it in here, and then you can just simply open this up from Visual Studio. There's a solution file in here. Open that up in Visual Studio 2017, which I will do now. Hopefully that opens. So in order to do React, we have to do some command line stuff. If you guys have done React or looked at React or Angular 3 or 4 development, you know that these new JavaScript frameworks that use what is it, ES6, ECMAScript 6 type languages that aren't really JavaScript. They're a higher level than JavaScript. They require NPM to run certain things like transpiling. If you guys have heard that term, transpiling is the act of taking the scripting that you're writing these new React or Angular 3 or 4 components in and converting them to plain JavaScript. It's kind of the equivalent of writing C# code and converting it to IL code so that .NET can interpret and run it. And it's the same idea because your browser does not understand React code, but it does understand regular plain JavaScript code. So what we will do here is you can open a command prompt and you'll go into this desktop modules and then the project, basically what we just unzipped right here. And what we're going to do is install the node dependencies. And that's using this npm install. This is similar to NuGet. You know, like when you distribute like an application and it has dependencies like Entity Framework or Telerik and all this stuff, whenever you're giving away your project or you're checking it into your source control, you don't check in anymore all those dependencies like Telerik and Entity Framework and Ninject or all other dependencies. What you do is you put in your project file that you're gonna use NuGet, and you're gonna tell it the versions you want, and that way when you check it into source control and some other developer brings it down on his machine, whenever he brings that up, NuGet will take care of resolving those dependencies on the developer's machine. And that gets us out of that DLL hell that we've all experienced as older developers. NPM is a similar device to NuGet. You're using React and all those components, Babel and Grunt and all those things that I showed you on that one slide. NPM takes care of downloading them all for you and resolving all the dependency issues. So run npm install, but before you do that, another command that we need to run is this one that gives us access to another registry that DNN's providing for us. DNN has built a bunch of React components for us to use, and if you're unsure or if you've never seen where those are located, you could go to, let's see here. We'll go to, well, where's my browser? You go to GitHub, DNN software, and then their DNN React Common. And here's a list of all their components that you have access to. That way you could make a complex React application, and I'll show you in a moment what that looks like, using all DNN's components. But the only way to do that is by DNN has to publish these components into a npm repository so that npm has access to it. Again, similar to NuGet, you guys, if some of you more advanced guys have actually developed .NET components, and you can actually publish them to NuGet so all other developers can download them in a very standardized way. Whoops, I'm back to my main slide here. So where DNN is storing them is in this registry called myget. So by default, by running this command, when you run the npm install, it'll look for components that your project is referring to that are DNN type components, and it'll find that they're not available in any of the npm registries. So then after it exhausts all the npm registries, it'll look in any additional registries that you have, which you've set here, which is in this myget.org/DNN software npm repository. So this is critical in order. So if you don't do this step and you run the npm install, it'll give you all the other stuff, but it'll throw errors saying, "Hey, we don't recognize any of these DNN components." So in my presentation, which I don't have time to do in this format, I actually run that npm get, and it takes about 5 minutes to run. So so you know, if any of you have done presentations before where something can probably take minutes to run, you got to go on to some other topic while that's in the background running. So we'll talk a little bit more about why why I'm calling this practical and why I'm organizing my project in this fashion. So first of all is for those of you who have done corporate development or enterprise development for DNN, you know that you get a client and they, you know, part of the SOW or the statement of work that you're building for this client is probably several different modules, maybe even some skin tokens, a custom theme, maybe a common library, and maybe a persona bar extension, and maybe a custom authentication extension, right? Well, rather than having a solution that peppers projects and files all over the DNN, your DNN installation, what I normally like to do is just put everything under desktop modules and then the company name. So for example, if I'm building something for a little company called Microsoft and they asked me to develop 3 or 4 modules for them, I would create a folder under desktop modules called Microsoft, and then I would create the folders for each module, or maybe a skin token or a common library, or maybe my persona bar extension, and all under there, and put a solution under there. In this way, you know, I have all my things contained in one folder. It makes organizing everything a lot easier and a lot more clean on your installation, rather than having a bunch of folders under desktop modules and under other various places in your installation. So this is how I like to organize large projects, and persona bar extensions I believe are going to be commonly paired with other modules, and I'll show you examples of use cases of how I've done a few persona bar extensions that are paired with other modules. The other reason I do it in this way, and hopefully it's practical to you, is I don't like switching between many tools. Like I mentioned before, when I went to the summit, I went to sessions by John Shealy and Peter Donker, who are just great presenters, just brilliant guys, always on the cutting edge. And I noticed that what they were doing, and what they're doing is very just common in the industry. When you're building React components, you know, React doesn't matter. Building React components doesn't matter if you're going to put it on top of a PHP system or a .NET system, really, because it's all JavaScript. So a lot of times these guys, what they'll do is they'll be building it in VS Code or some other editor, and they'll be running it maybe in a little HTML page, and they'll be running that HTML page in like, you know, a node, you know, running it in a node server or whatever, and they'll be kind of developing these React applications, and once they're kind of done developing that, they'll then kind of copy all their code over to, you know, Visual Studio, where they can then develop their web API and their server-side stuff that the React services are going to, the React is going to talk to the services. All that stuff seems a little too confusing and daunting to me, and I don't like to learn all these different tools. So the way I'm doing this and I'm presenting now, it's all done in Visual Studio 2017. You don't need any additional IDEs or any additional servers or tools. And then the other thing you're going to probably ask me, well, Scott, if you're putting all your stuff under desktop modules, well, how do you then, it seems like a lot of work to then copy files from, you know, for your persona bar to the area that they need to be. And what I'm going to show you is that I've built a process inside of this starter package that allows me to, after doing one click or doing a build, it'll copy all the files and do all the packaging for me, such that as I'm building in development, I'm making changes to my React, I can simply click a tool, and that will move all the persona bar files into the proper folder, so that I could just simply refresh my site and start testing. Does that make sense? And I'll show you that in a moment. So, in summary, I'm just using Visual Studio 2017, and I built out a packaging process using several common tools, and making it fairly easy for you to just build server-side code and React code, and putting it all together without having to swivel chair between environments. So one of the ways that I orchestrate this whole process is I'm using the NPM, which is the Node packaging manager, to kind of kick off that build process. And there's two flavors of this build process. One is, as I'm doing development, it's doing a simple build process where it's just moving the files to my inside of my local installation to where they need to be, so that I can just refresh the local site and work with my Persona Bar extension. The other thing is a packaging process where I'm using these same tools to build my actual DNN zip package to install the module, much like the Chris Hammond templates using MS Build, to create the package for us. The only additional thing you have to install in Visual Studio is this NPM task runner. So you could do that by simply going to Tools, Extensions, and Updates, and for searching, you just search NPM and then just simply install this extension. And I'll show you how that works in a moment. I'm going to swivel chair over to my Visual Studio, and just let me know how I'm doing on time. I think I have a few more minutes.
Yeah, we certainly do. What I was going to say is that we're running up to time where we maybe have about 10 minutes left that you can go through, and I don't want to cut you short, because we want to see this come to fruition.
Yeah.
Then I'll give us time for some questions, and then getting to make sure we close out and have some of our giveaways here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be really quick. Okay, so one of the you'll see that there's several files in the root of this Visual Studio, and one of them is called package.json. So package.json is how NPM, this task runner, will kick off the process. Now, so once I've installed that add-on that I just showed you in the slide, there'll be another window that you'll have to open in Visual Studio. And not a lot of people know about this, especially the old developers like me, but it's called Task Runner Explorer. So if you go to View, Other Windows, Task Runner Explorer, you can bring that up, and I've had it anchored here at the bottom. You can anchor it to the side or do whatever you want. And in Task Runner Explorer, it'll detect these special files, these node type files, in the root of the project, and it'll provide the tooling to be able to run these installations. So notice that it found two. It found package.json and grunt file, and we'll talk about grunt in a little bit later. But package.json is the NPM task runner, and I've got two custom tasks. One is build dev, and if I right click and say run, it'll just go ahead and kick that off. And what this is doing is this is actually just doing a couple things. It's building my React source code, or it's compiling my React application into plain JavaScript. It's putting that bundled file in the folder I want, which is in this Persona Bar folder here. And then what it's doing is it's running a grunt task to pick up this Persona Bar folder and moving it into the place that it needs to be under that admin, DNN, Persona Bar / modules, whatever. So it does this simply by kicking that off. So this is what I'll do as I'm doing development work in my React application. I'll just simply kick this off. Now, if that becomes cumbersome, another thing you can do is you can set a binding to say, run this every time I do a build. So if you're more comfortable with simply every time you get done with some development, just simply kicking off a build, then it'll automatically run this task after you do a build, and then you don't have to remember that. And the other thing is this package task. Now, the package task is what actually is going to build it's going to do many things. It's going to build the React code into a JavaScript package. Then it's going to bundle up all my files for installation in DNN. and then it's going to create that zip file for me so that I could just simply install it in a DNN installation. And so this is similar to the MS Build process we used to use, only instead of using MS Build, I'm now using Grunt and these new technologies to do it. They're a little bit faster, and they also have the ability to compile the React code. So once you do that, if you look at this distribution folder that's created under the project, your zip package is ready to either install locally or distribute to somebody else to install. So we may not have time to get into React development, but I at least wanted to show you kind of what's happening here. I know this is going to be a little bit daunting, but basically what I just showed you is this process flow here. So I'm using npm to kick off Webpack, to kick off, and then kick off Grunt. That may sound like another language to some of you who are not familiar with these tools, but I'll explain what these three tools do. npm is like NuGet, like I mentioned, or sorry, not NuGet, yeah, the NuGet packaging manager, where it basically looks at that package JSON, and there's a lot of dependencies that are laid out there, like React, and then React has dependencies, and maybe even the Webpack and the Grunt and the dependencies that they have. So it's basically kind of working like NuGet to say, hey, based on this package JSON, have I downloaded all the dependency, all the JavaScript dependencies that are needed to run this? And then it also is like an entry point to kick off some custom processes. So it sets some environment variables, and I have two environment variables. One is development, one is production, and that defines whether or not I'm going to kick off just the simple development process or the production process, which is creating the whole package for me. And then once from there, it'll kick off Webpack. What Webpack is doing is it's doing the transpiling of the React code, which if we have time, I could show you some of that. Otherwise, you could look at that on your own. But it's compiling the React code into, which is several different JSX type files, into a big bundle JavaScript, into one single JavaScript bundle. And in that process is making sure it has all the React dependencies. It's doing some code completion and code compilation stuff, and it's producing that bundle JavaScript. Then it tells Grunt to kick off, and Grunt is kind of like MS Build, but it's using pure JavaScript to do it. But Grunt is a kind of an all-purpose task execution thing. Some of those tasks can be run MS Build to build a DLL. It can do copy file tasks. It can do zipping tasks. It can do all sorts of other type of things. Moving files, checking files in. It's just an all-purpose task runner, just like MS Build. And I'm using it to copy files to locations, and I'm also using it to zip up the packet and create the zip packaging. Just like our previous MS Build process would do. Okay, where are we at on time? I can show a little bit about React components and maybe a little demo here for 2 minutes, or we can just ask questions and maybe get into some of that stuff.
Tell you what, let's kind of jump to the to the show presentation part. Can you show us the run of a persona bar item that's been built, and we'll talk about that for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of what you're giving insight into here is the way to make a simple build process, and a lot of people don't have a handle on that, and so that's a lot of good details and information. But I also get the sense that it's something you could spend hours with as well.
Yeah, and that's really the problem I had, because when I initially built my first React application using DNN blogs, I had no ability to do that, and that's what took me several tens of hours. So hopefully this just gets you to where you could start developing without all the rest of that ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's maybe do a quick demo for you. And so I built a couple different React components that are available to you. One is that PB starter, and if you guys have developed using Chris Hammond's templates, it's basically that's what the PB starter is. So really quickly, we'll go to, go to my browser here. I've got a DNN installation here, which is one. Yeah, this one has it. I might be logged out now. Let me make sure. Refresh the site. So I've got this demo installed. So basically, if you follow all my instructions and simply build that packaging, you can then install it, and just like you would a module, and then you would get to where I am right here, where you can just start playing around with the code. So once I install it, I've got the Persona Bar starter project right here. And again, this is just like the Chris Hammond template here. It creates a React application that allows you to do create, read, update, and deleting of items. So, and this is going to look very similar to how all the other admin components work within the DNN system. This looks a little bit weird on my screen at this size. Let me try to expand this a little bit. I don't know why that looks a little bit weird, but I can add an item, save it, then it adds it to the list. Then I can expand the item, make changes to it, update it, or I can delete it. Does that look familiar?
Indeed.
It does, yep, and very fast.
Yeah, so this and again, this is using a lot of the React components. I'll show you this in a minute. That DNN comes with. So the advantage of using developing a Persona Bar extension and using React, the DNN React components, is I can just slap a component on, and it has all this functionality built in for me, like validation and styling and adding tooltips and all sorts of things.
And
another
consistent with other DNN-based Persona Bar items.
Exactly, because one of the things that you see with all third-party modules is when they do, they all have their own administrative interfaces and they look all different. Some of them are using jQuery UI, some of them are using whatever frameworks and Bootstrap styling, and they all look different. By using the React components, everyone looks the same. Another cool project to download, and you can use it just like the starter project, which has all the same plumbing, is this restaurant menu. And interesting enough, the nostalgia that I have for this particular forum is that I originally built this module in 2013 for my very first training that I ever did, which was at the Southern Pride DNN conference.
Represent. Woo-hoo!
And I've built this module 3 different ways: as the original web forms type module, an MVC version of it, a SPA version of it, and now I have a Persona Bar version of it. And you can find that on my GitHub page under restaurant menu. And you can see all the different types, and they all do the same thing, just with a different type of module.
As a collection,
and again,
those 3 then become a very important comparison, that you can look at the data and the elements and see how they were differently expressed in those different types of things. That's a good training resource as a triplet right there.
Yeah, if somebody knows one.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did at the DNN Summit. So I basically started this application with my starter, and it's got a lot of cool features as well. I mean, it's got the switch tool, which is like an on-off, true false. It's got the file uploader React component, so I don't have to build any of this stuff.
Nice right
I've
there.
got the file upload, the file picker, the file linker. This is all just throwing that React component on, and it works just like any other. So you could see that basically by using these React components that DNN provides, you get all this functionality without having to build it all yourself.
And if you were using Angular, you would not.
You'd be up the creek without a paddle.
Yep.
Well, Scott, we really should spend much more time here going through this with you and getting even deeper into the details. But we want to try and hold here both not only to our time of trying to hit 8:30, but as well some of the folks who've joined East Coast, West Coast, and out of the country, it's getting late for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scott, thank you very, very much for this presentation. What we're going to do is when we post this onto our website, we'll post some more links. For those of you who are online, David has posted a couple of links in the chat that you can grab those as well now if you want to. Let's just do a couple of different things. First off, everybody, let's give a round of applause and thank Scott for joining us here and helping us get a leg up on these tools and these elements so that we can start using them. Yeah, that is my phone over there. David and Dustin, let's run through these giveaways we have. We have a couple of items, right?
We'll do the JetBrains, I guess, first, if you want to.
Well, it looks like we had a couple of people have to pass out wherever they were.
All right, so we've got JetBrains coming up. This is a license from one of our sponsors, JetBrains, who has a series of tools, and they are all available underneath of this giveaway item. What you're going to get is a ticket, a code, a coupon code that allows you to purchase for $0 from their store any of your single item choices. So we don't pick for you. You pick what you could use the most. Dustin, you want to pick a number here? How are we doing this?
I was going to say we could hopefully use Clint's hat. I'm just trying to go ahead and.
It's hair
So
and
that we're
life
not-
free.
Can't use your thing.
Fall to the ground.
It's air free.
Well, Morgan
He's
Wade
been
left.
lucky enough to join back in.
Sorry.
Well, Morgan could have won a T-shirt or something.
Well, t-shirts.
T-shirts are local. We're not shipping those out. All right.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, so JetBrains is the important one here.
Dustin is completely randomizing.
I think they're good.
He's randomizing tickets inside a hat here. Camouflage,
Rick,
Southern
pick
quality
one.
hat.
Go ahead.
Clips and tiger hat.
All right. And we have 479100.
Not
That would be somebody here in the house.
That will be me.
Ryan Moore.
That
all
would be me.
right. Now you have your choice. If you don't want the JetBrains, you could of course have it.
No, I do want the JetBrains
You
this
do.
time. I do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. You're the proud one.
I do want the JetBrains this time. Absolutely. Thank you very, very, very much.
brains in general. Hey, I
Thank
got
you
a
very
question
much.
for Scott, if it's not too late. Scott, if Blue Bolt hired a new developer to come in and you were going to train them on how to code a module,
Other than us.
like which
Yeah, we
option
could
would you
actually-
choose out of
we could
all the
do
ones
that.
you got?
Depends on what the module needs to do.
I'll got a developer with stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I think that's a good answer because as his example goes across different things applying the same stuff, there's some things you would do in a persona bar versus some stuff you would do as a module, some stuff you would do more as a spa module. So
I'm just wondering if he would
Yeah.
overwhelm a
Well, like for example, if I knew it was a client that was going to start on Evoke 9 or DNN 9 and above, and I knew that the functionality that they wanted to develop was admin level functionality or content manager level functionality that's portal wide. For example, Bogdan's module that's just admin functionality. I would absolutely do it as a persona bar module.
makes sense. Makes sense. Okie dokie. Second items here that we have for giveaways, right?
Are all for.
Well, they're all local.
They're all local, so we'll do them after we're off.
So you
well, we
screwed
have,
everybody online by taking the one thing we could
Well,
have given them.
no. We did mention JetBrains here as a sponsor. David, do you want to bring up on screen and just mention as well? Or we did already?
Well,
showed the website.
Yeah, I showed the website.
We showed the website a second ago? Okay, well, then I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and close out this session. Let me bring back to a couple of the earlier points about security. DNN security updates for those patches. If anyone has questions, experiences trouble, do what I do. Reach out to the DNN community. First thing I did when I heard about this was reach out to David and Clint and Grant and everybody and just say, hey, has everybody heard about this? What are we hearing and what are we seeing? Just keep in mind that you're not by yourself. DNN community, whether it's SoFri or Facebook or any of the rest of us, we're all out here to help each other and share with each other. So if you run into problems, reach out. Somebody will lend a hand for sure. Get into those security updates. There are also some other security issues that are still out and live that are a little bit less broadcasted. So if you have any questions about modules, reach out to us on any of our different communication methods, but info@southernfrieddnn.com if you want to ask questions. There are a few modules from well-known developers that have patches that are important to do, and other DNN in general security updates to do as well. Thanks again to Bogdan, who joined us to show us DNN Admin. Thank you, Scott, for joining us and talking about Persona Bar development. And we will see you guys next month. Again, the third Thursday of the month is the plan, and we will put up announcements once we know exactly who's coming to speak and what we're going to hear about next time. Thanks very much. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.